When I was in class 10, my mother sat me down and said that your boards are the most important thing in your life. And this conversation repeated in class 12th. I mean, they were important, but not the most important thing in my life. The fact is that middle class India, career planning is like running a hurdle race. Yeah, it starts with school with parents lining up, goes on to college, maybe post-graduation or B school, and then you really land that one coveted job. Yeah, that job that your folks tell you to hold on to, for dear life. Yeah, because you have really worked for it. So I ran the hurdle race. Yeah, did well, got good breaks, good organizations, good roles. Yeah, and 17 years later, after running that hurdle race, I was tired. I was fat, angry, very wired. A strange incident happened. Right? I came back home from from a work trip. It was a few days and pretty normal, right? And I came home and my 4-year-old ran to me and she gave me this. It said, "Welcome home, Papa." Now, a really cute, tiny thing, and for me, a work trip, that was no big deal, but for her, I was a weekend father. So I sat back and I thought, and I said that, listen, this isn't right. I do not have the balance right, and I must do something about it. So I thought of taking a sabbatical. It seemed like a really good idea. Yeah, I'll take time off, I'll get up and I'll do what I want, and it'll be so much fun. But then a mind conditioned by society kicked in. Yeah, my rational mind. The fact is that sabbaticals in India are not seen as a break, which people take to rejuvenate themselves, but more as an excuse that people give for some, if they were either let go from their work or had some, terrible illness or some kind of life event. And there's almost always a judgment when one speaks about the sabbatical, and my own doubts were real. And I said, has anybody taken it? What did they do, and did it help? What about money? Like, I have responsibilities. Will it be beneficial? And finally, like, what would everybody think? I mean, why go far? My own wife, right? She'd been telling me all this time, saying, go slow, take it easy. You need to spend more time at home. And when I said I want to take a sabbatical to spend time at home, and she was like, how can you leave your job? But my doubts were real. And they were all sort of coming together. And I said, okay, pause. Let me break it down. I think the core first big issue to be addressed was really employability. That I needed to be able to come back. So I took a hard look at my CV, my experience, and I said, okay, you have a good 17 years behind you, most of it in 2 organizations. And the people who speak well about your work. So with the right references, at least employability or capability would really not be a question. Second, how do I manage this entire thought that he must have been let go? And I said, okay, for that, I need to socialize it. Yeah, so I spoke with colleagues, friends, mentors, most importantly, recruitment consultants, that this is what I was intending to do. Yeah, and there were judgments and comments, and people called me brave and called me foolish, but yeah, I mean, largely the ecosystem knew what I wanted to do and why I wanted to do it. And third, I said that in my plan, I need to make sure that I earmark at least the last 3 months to be able to plan that comeback. I said, okay, will it dent my savings? So took a stock of my finances and I earmarked a certain amount, and I said, yeah, I mean, if I spend this amount of money, uh, I should be fine. And I said that I need to plan everything really well in advance, and I can make the same money travel a lot faster, a lot longer. It wasn't that too much money was stashed away, right, for something like this. So for the next 6 months, I stashed away what I called as a sabbatical kitty. Lastly, I needed to make a choice about what I would do with my time. So, like all good B school graduates, I said I should do some research. Yeah, so went to sites, spoke to people, and most of these sites outlined a very sort of cliched version of what a sabbatical should be like. I mean, they spoke about things like, start a side hustle, learn a new language, upskill yourself, do some charity. I mean, one went to this extent of saying, present your learnings to your boss. I mean, come on. It's my sabbatical. It's not an assignment. So, I mean, I knew that I would end up, wasting this time if I did not really outline what I needed to do. And I needed to know that, yeah, that this is time well spent. So I said, okay, let me make KRAs. So my first list looked something like this. Yeah, it was a 30-pointer. And I was going from one to-do packed calendar to a second to-do packed calendar. And I said, hang on, this is, the opposite of work is rest and, not more work. So I finally arrived at something that looked like this. And I said, okay, there are 3 parts to this. There are the must-dos. That if I don't do this, I know that this would be a completely, wasted year. Then there was a good to do. And I said, yeah, if I do some of these, it's time really well spent. And then there was a brilliant to do. Yeah? And I said, I won't sweat it. It happens. And it doesn't happen. It doesn't matter. Yeah. So with a deep breath, little bit of planning, lots of bravado, I started with my sabbatical. The first day was funny, right? I woke up and everybody in the house was bustling and they were figuring out, getting ready for school or for office. And I sat there doing nothing. And it was strange, right? Because there was nothing to do. So I booked a morning show and I went for a movie. Yeah, in the movie, I kept picking up my phone, waiting for that email, that message that really needed me somewhere, but nobody needed me. So I watched the movie in a slightly uncomfortable position, right? Saying, yeah, no, nothing's buzzing. And after the movie, I did not have to be somewhere. There was no time limit or there was no, I wasn't needed anywhere, right? So it was one of those first experiences which was strangely no agenda. That night, I slept for 10 hours straight. Earlier when people would ask me, what do you do? And I would say that, yeah, I work for so-and-so organization and I do X, Y, Z role. And that was, in a sense, my whole identity, right? And now, it was nothing. It was just me and what I'm about rather than, what I really do for a living. And, at first I would try and explain and I would say that, listen, yeah, I used to work there. Now I'm on a sabbatical and, and inevitably, they were greeted with, oh, so what happened? After a while, I just stopped explaining, right? And I just moved to, oh, I'm a house husband and I live off my wife's income. Yeah, that pretty much used to shut down the entire conversation. Yeah. So it was an amazing year. I mean, I swam in the Dead Sea. Yeah, played Indiana Jones at Petra. Actually, that's me basically playing the mule and not Indiana Jones. I lived for a month in Bali. knocked off some items on the bucket list, and I learned to dive. Yeah, became a diver. That's me in the sea. And I pampered my kids left, right, and center. On the right is a snap of my son getting a burger for breakfast. And this was when I was trying to teach him how to read a newspaper. I attended every parent-teacher meet, came on the dial list, of the teachers. And along the way, I lost some weight. Yeah, so that was me before I started. Yeah, not very proud. I mean, all in all, I undid 10 years of aging. So 3 months before my sabbatical was going to end, I started to reconnect with people. And yes, I did face bias. I mean, an anecdote, and I was speaking to this lady, and I really want to take her name, but I won't. And, we were discussing a role, and she said, Alok, you're in no position to negotiate. And I told her that one is always in a position to negotiate. And I did land a good role on my terms. So when I look back and I said, okay, I had fears and I had concerns, and how did I do against them? So let me put out a scorecard. I lost 20 kgs of my weight, put 5 back on. So net score 15 kgs down. Managed 1,000-calorie workouts, knocked off, about 20 points off my BP. My current compensation covers for my gap year, beats average year-on-year inflation, average industry increases. But most importantly, I rose a few ranks in my daughter's list of favorite people. A survey outlined that 2 out of 3 people would take a sabbatical if they did not have to worry about their career or money. There's an incredible article by Professor David Burkus, and he outlined that both the employee and the organization benefit. The employee because they come back healthier, refreshed, and the organization because of renewed vigor and creativity. So sabbaticals work. It worked for me. If you want to do it, go ahead and take one. You'll be fine. We as a society overestimate the idea of continuity, the importance of that hurdle race. Take a sabbatical, the world will wait. Thank you.